I'm honored today to interview Babak Movassaghi, who is the founder and CEO of InfiniteMD. Welcome, Babak.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us about your previous experiences in the entrepreneurial journey that led you to start InfiniteMD?
Absolutely. My background is I was a young scientist, grew up in Germany, did my PhD there, and I always wanted to do my own startup, my own thing. Was always poking my friends to let's start a company together. Back then, it was into the medical imaging space, but it was truly that. Today is different, but back then in Europe, in particular Germany, people didn't like to take much risk. It was a secure environment and job. There was not this startup environment like we have, for example, in cities such as here in the U.S., like in San Francisco, Boston, Houston, New York, and many other great places. So I moved to the U.S. 15 years ago, and still with having that in mind. My first startup was actually a sleep lab, people with obstructive sleep apnea in Denver, Colorado. And that was my first experimentation with a startup, and I loved it. I didn't get to sleep much myself, which is funny, helping patients with sleep apnea. And we had a very different kind of a sleep, different kind of sleep studies because we did it remote sleep studies. So instead of you coming in, we would go to your home and wire you up and monitor you remotely in your own bed. So that was unique in that space. So that was a small exit, but I smelled blood. But I came back. I decided to do this more structurally to understand what entrepreneurship, which led me to do my MBA at MIT Sloan. And I focused there strongly on entrepreneurship, had great professors, great mentors that I'm great friends with today. And there I learned how to systematically go forward to that. And I got into that environment. You have to be with risk-taking, self-minded, crazy people in order to go and tackle some big problems in the world. And the MIT Sloan environment and the whole Cambridge environment really gave me that opportunity.
Can you share your original vision for InfiniteMD and how the company has pivoted along the way?
Absolutely. So originally when we started, me and my two co-founders, Christopher Lee and Liz Kuo, our vision was to help patients internationally, because this really came out of a passion of ours where we really wanted to help patients worldwide to have access to the top specialists that we have, for example, here in the US. And there is a discrepancy between within the states in the US, but also within countries. So we focus there on countries such as in China, right, where patients would see an oncologist that was a general oncologist, but not specifically a lung cancer oncologist, in particular small cell carcinoma specialist. So this was the vision initially. And we actually still have an office in Shanghai, and we also did cases by now over, I would say, 35 countries. We just had, I think yesterday, one with South Korea. So we do a lot of international cases. That was the initial vision. But at some point, about 2 years ago, I took over as the CEO of the company. Prior to that, I was the president. I took over as the CEO of the company, and together with Chris, we were more technology oriented and pivoted the company to be more tech. So tech-enabled service company, which is a different kind of company than a service company. And we spent a lot of resources and funding into building out our platform and recruiting, while maintaining and recruiting more top specialists. Another second pivot we did is we pivoted into the US market, where there was also here a discrepancy between your zip code. So if you live in a rural area, why do you need to travel or fly 4 or 5 hours to see a specialist? Why can you not do it on a Zoom call like we are doing? Because physicians, specialty care physicians do not always need to touch you to reevaluate your existing treatment options. We were able to provide them MRI, images, CT, whatever medical images they needed. We summarized all the medical reports. So And we went in the US after the employers market and payers market. That was a game changer for us. So starting out of a passion, helping patients worldwide, turned to become more technology, more US focused, with maintaining the initial goal, helping.
Can you tell us about the launch and some of your early wins?
Oh boy, those were tough times. So you have to understand, for us, it's a two-sided stakeholders, because on the one hand, we have to keep the customer and the patients happy. We call them members. And on the other hand, you have to recruit the best of the physicians. And these guys will tell you, who are you? Why should I do consultation for you? I haven't heard from you. So those were really hard. And at the same time, we would need to go to the employers and say, or to insurance companies and say, we want to help you with your members. So from the physician pool, the good news was I had over the years established a great relationship with some of the best doctors in my previous role, where I was leading the key opinion leaders program for a very large medical imaging company. And my co-founders as well, Liz is an MD, MBA at Harvard, and so she had great affiliations there. And once you have these key doctors in your network, doctors like Eric Weiner, who's the chief of breast cancer oncology at Dana-Farber. So then others will come and say, so you have this doctor, you must be good. I want to try this out. And then they would also make recommendations that opened the doors, but it was a very, very hard.
Can you provide us an overview of some of your important strategic partners?
Absolutely. I think in the early days, one of the great establishment we had in partnerships we still have is Argus Insurance that provides, we were always proud to say we cover almost all Bermuda. So that was a provider, a payer that really helped us out in the early days, and we were so thankful for them. We're covering almost half of the island, basically, to have access to second opinions. But more recently, we have partnered with a strategic consumer medical, which was a game changer for us. Once consumer medical partnered up with us, and they evaluated all the second opinion companies out there, basically a handful of us out there. They chose us because we just had the best service when it comes to the doctors, but also of the team, right? We're very lean, passionate team that could provide such great service. And the last point is the technology platform that we have. So with consumer medical, we have been able to provide their members, which they have over 3 million members, have access today to InfiniteMD. So that strategic partnership has been very, very fruitful, and that we are very thankful of.
Can you tell us about the competitive landscape and how you guys are competing?
Absolutely. So it is. So telehealth right now is a hot topic because of the pandemic, right? So there are different areas in telehealth that are there are different things that are happening today. One is the urgent and primary care, which has probably tripled or quadrupled in the last couple months. People don't like to go see a physician, and once they try it once, they're like, oh, this was actually not that bad. I just press this button and can talk to a doctor now. And most of the people's employers have it now. I think 98% of large employers provide this as a part of the benefits. Then you have the telehealth business space, which is as a software or solution to a hospital. And then what we do is basically the second opinions. And I would call the telehealth urgent and primary care is like a red ocean. I mean, the competition is fierce. So if you want to succeed there, you need a lot of funding, and there's still a lot of opportunities, but it's a red ocean. When we launched InfiniteMD almost 5.5 years ago, it was still a blue ocean. There were like very few players. I would say a handful today. Competition, of course, is there. We welcome competition. We think we are different because we provide our services also internationally, and our platform has more modalities than anybody else. So we don't do just written consultation. We also do video consultation, but something that is unique in the market is asynchronous, like asynchronous messaging. And especially their younger population likes that a lot. They can just ask a doctor a question, and the doctor creates a brief, short video blurb of themselves and answers your question as a follow-up, for example. That is kind of cool, unique. And there are many, many other features there. So competition is fierce in the telehealth space today, but in our space, I would call it not a blue ocean anymore, but maybe a pink ocean. But we've been able to establish us and position ourselves very well.
You recently, I guess recently completed a Series A. Can you tell us about your Series A, who participated, and how you used the funding?
Oh boy, I don't even know how much I can talk about this. I would have run this by our lawyers, but I want to say a little bit about maybe the board members that would then automatically you can affiliate who these folks were. So Chris Kratter and Avner Schnoyer both have been supportive from day one. Chris Kratter is also with Flair Capital, and Avner Schnoyer, very successful entrepreneur himself and an angel investor. And they supported us from day one. We took their angel funding initially to build out the platform. So that was where the majority of the funding went. And of course, coming from business school, what you learn is you don't just go and build a platform. You do an MVP. So we build a minimum valid product. It looked very beautiful from the outside. So doctors loved it. Patients were interacting with it. In the background, it was a chaos. It was us doing everything manually. It was secure, but it was just manually. But we were able to reiterate and fastly prototype new features and test it in the market a little bit, especially in the international space, before going and building the whole thing. Once we knew 90%, it took us 2 years to understand every little feature and business logic that needs to be integrated. Once we had that, then we took the Series A funding, where also our strategic customer participated. David Hines, the CEO of Consumer Medicals, is on board and basically took that funding and really took that software platform to the next level. One thing we have neglected, I have to admit, is marketing. So we haven't marketed ourselves. We have marketed ourselves very more into the employer route. We got selected this year at the EHIR, which is a very tough conference to be participating in, to be picked. We were only 10 companies that were able to pitch there to some of the big names out there. But because of COVID, it got canceled. So the Series A has helped us basically to become, let's say it this way, before we were college football good, but now with the Series A, we became truly pros, and we're able to outcompete some of the competitors in repeatedly.
Can you tell us about some of the other key members of your team?
Of course, the number one person that comes to my mind is my co-founder, Christopher Lee. Chris is a very bright Harvard and MIT PhD student. He did the HST program, where he went to medical school at Harvard and did engineering at MIT, and that's how we met. I took some crazy classes while I was at the business school because of my background. I took engineering classes, and there was one class that we took 6 years ago, 275, where I met him, and I didn't have my homework. I didn't know. I don't do homework at this age, so I asked him if I could have this, and I was like, I like this kid. So we teamed up, and Amanda Wood is another person I would like to mention. She has a lot of experience. She leads our marketing and PR. She has worked in the past for American Well, so she understands that telehealth space very well. And Maria Kingston, who we were able to snap from Partners Healthcare. She's our VP of Provider Network. She brought a lot of network of physicians that just love her, and we were able to build on that. And of course, lastly, Liz Kuo, who was our third co-founder, was initially the CEO of the company. 2 years in, due to other circumstances in the family. She has 3 beautiful children now, left us, but has always maintained a great relationship and was early on part of the team.
So what are the future plans for InfiniteMD?
Well, before I answer that, I just want to mention that, when you mentioned about key employers or key stakeholders, for me, no matter what I did in life, there were 3 items that were very, very important. And that kind of summarizes some of the questions you asked, and also maybe will lead into the next question. Anything I do has to have 3 items, and I just recently figured it out after some self-reflection. It needs to be innovative. So innovation is a key important factor. Anything I've done in life, my previous role, I was the VP of Innovation and New Ventures for a $26 billion company, Flextronics, built up their innovation center. So innovation is important. Number 2 is somehow we have to help people. Whatever it is, that I love to have the outcome to be either helping physicians to help patients, or whatever it is to help make life easier for not just few, but a large volume of folks. And number 3, the most important perhaps, which comes back to your previous and next question, is the team, right? The team is everything. So in any startup, the investors, they ask you, tell me more about your team. And I didn't understand that. It took me years to understand. It is really the team. When it gets really tough, the team is everything. You can master every problem there is. I mean, that's all we do as entrepreneurs, we just solve problems. And if you can rely on your team, then you get it done. So as a next step, I want to make sure that the team has more support. We are growing rapidly. Due to the pandemic, our volume has doubled. Since Consumer Medical came as a strategic partner 2 years ago, if I take those numbers till today, we have quadrupled. So the next phase, we have to grow faster. There are 2 ways of doing that, 3 ways. Investment. We are being approached by multiple VC firms on a daily basis almost. Number 2 is a strategic partnership. We could do a much closer strategic partnership. So we don't know which one with the board and I and my executive team. We are elaborating that today. Whatever it is, it needs to help more patients and more reach, more impact around the world.
Well, Babak, I'd like to thank you for sharing your fascinating entrepreneurial story from Iran to playing football to MIT. It's a fascinating story, and we wish you luck moving on to your Series B and an exit if you want an exit.
Thank you so much.